Channing, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm a little awkward. I feel a little bit like I'm slightly unprepared for being videotaped in this way. But for everyone listening, thank you for joining us for our first filmed videocast. Yeah, our first live. Well, it's
not terrorist video.
Yeah, we're not making porn right after this, and we're not doing any kind of terrorist agenda video.
No, just two guys, a lamp, and a wall of headsets. Just hanging out.
How do you like my headsets?
There's a lot of them. They're very nice. I imagine you spent a pretty penny on those.
Not as much as you'd think. I got a lot of them for free. Yeah, I have a little wall of hung up headsets that I use for my various PC and gaming needs.
And your phone.
And my phone. Yeah, really, I think I use my headsets the most for my phone when I'm talking to people. But yeah, thanks for joining us for the Fleeting Thoughts podcast. We're putting these on YouTube, and I decided to bust out the old 1080p camcorder. And cool enough, you can use the Zoom handy recorder that I've been using for the podcast, and you can use that for the camcorder. So it's sort of a kismet that they both work together. Yeah, it means like lucky or something.
Okay. I was gonna say, is that your
That's
word?
not my word today.
Kismet.
But if you want, we can get straight into our words of the day.
Yeah. I mean, let's go.
I'm ready.
Oh, we're waiting for. I'm ready too.
Why
don't you start?
Okay.
I feel like I always start. I go first with the words.
Yeah, well, it's because I do the intro. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I got you.
What's going on.
I got you.
So my word is Qualia. It's spelled Qualia, and it is an old Greek term for. It's a philosophical term that is highly debated among philosophers as because it's a very conceptual kind of non-physical. Concept, like most concepts. God damn it. You know what I'm talking about. It's let me just define it real quick. It doesn't have a very strict definition, but essentially it means what it feels like to have a specific experience. So it's a specific subjective conscious experience, and in describing that to another person, you kind of get stuck with a lack of language to do it. So qualia is kind of like the specific instances of subjective experience that are very difficult to explain to another person, especially if that person hasn't experienced it. Mm-hmm. An example that they use a lot is like if I see the color red, it's almost impossible to explain that to someone who's never seen any color, or to a blind person, because it's a specific subjective experience that I know what it's like. Mm-hmm. It's like what it's like to do something, what it feels like to me, but in a kind of non-rational kind of way. Like you can't just be like, it is this. You can only say, it feels like this, or it seems like this, or to me it's this is what's happening, but it's hard to translate to another person.
Yeah. Well, and also doesn't, like, in the example of a color, it doesn't have a definition. It's just, you don't define colors by words typically. Like, red is just the color.
Right.
So there's not a way to, there's not like a definition for red.
Yeah, you can't, like, be like, what's the word for I feel, I see red, I have a specific brain state that tells me that.
Yeah.
It's impossible to, we don't have words for that
murder
kind of stuff.
and rage. I don't know.
yeah. Well, those are associations, but it's hard to, like, if you met an alien and they didn't know our colors, they'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about if they only saw in black and white or something.
Yeah. What was the word again? Qualia?
Qualia.
Which is not the study of koala bears.
No.
Which is what I thought when you first told me earlier. Or maybe that's like, you could use that as the word to describe a group of koala bears. It's a qualia.
Yeah, goddamn big group of qualias.
Fucking hanging from the trees,
mm-hmm.
eating nuts or bamboo shoots or whatever the fuck they eat.
I think they eat bamboo. Or eucalyptus.
Eucalyptus?
Is that a tea? I think they made tea out of that.
Probably. They probably make a lot of stuff out of it.
I don't know. Koalas have made a big impact on our lives in the recent years.
I had a stuffed animal koala.
Yeah?
watched me from the corner of my room.
You know they're not bears, right?
I assume.
They're marsupials. We got a little help from our.
My wife Vanessa is photographing us during this.
Yeah.
And apparently going to whisper helpful tidbits of information.
No, I can. Yeah, we need a helpful production audience to help us along. So, what is your word?
Well, sir.
What's your word?
What I've brought to the table is the word cogitation. No, that's
It's
not a good way to say it.
Too many S's in that one.
Cogitation. It has no S's. It's all T's and
Cogitation.
Cogitation, which is a concerted thought or reflection.
Oh.
So it's just another word for reflecting on something through thought. An example is after hours of cogitation, he came up with a new proposal. So it's just thought processes.
It's kind of like contemplation. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be related to the word codger, like that old codger always cogitating. But he comes up with good shit. I don't know. It's really nice.
Because his cogitation is through the roof. Because his wife's dead and he just sits on his porch all day.
Oh, wow.
Complaining about children. I know, I went to a dark place.
These kids
I just
these
watched
days.
Gran Torino, so that just, when you said old codger, I was like, Clint Eastwood's wife's dead. And
yeah, you've seen 2 Clint Eastwood movies, and I have only seen one of those movies. You saw... Oh, you didn't see
No,
the
I didn't watch
movie.
American
I keep
Sniper.
on thinking you've seen it because I want to be jealous.
Which is
Foxcatcher, yeah.
a very good, psychologically disturbing film, but it was very good.
And it's based on a true story. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out.
I think they took some liberties, like the brother that... One of the brothers, I don't want to say any more than that because it might ruin the film for people who don't know the story in real life, but I guess he was upset about how they did some of the stuff in the movie because it was so kind of far-fetched from what really happened.
Yeah, I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast, and he said that a few of the details were completely changed.
Yeah.
As far as dates, and then the person he ended up fighting at the end of the movie, the MMA fight, that was his first and only MMA fight, and he actually fought...
Oh, is it his only
one? He fought
one?
someone else.
They don't talk about it at all, like in the movie. They at the end they show him getting in the ring, and then it's credits.
Oh,
you don't see the fight. You don't learn anything else about it. So.
Yeah, that's what I remember from the podcast.
But that'd be interesting if he only did the one fight. Maybe he just wasn't, I guess, that good. Or didn't.
No, I think it was to do with the fact that UFC was just starting, and he went into a different league, like Pride or something. But I don't know all the details really. So,
well, we could just make them up and then fabricate them and pretend that they're real.
Yeah,
that's what people do.
Yeah, and then he died. It was crazy.
And then he died, yeah.
Yeah.
A roundhouse kick to the face, and then he died. And then he was resurrected, and now he gives wrestling lessons in Oregon, which that last part is true, not the resurrection part, but
not the resurrection.
He runs wrestling clinics in Oregon right now.
The Jesus-like behavior. So did you like Gran Torino?
Torino, not Turismo.
No, not the game.
No, it was good. It's one of those movies that I've wanted to watch for years, and I just never did. And then we were talking about it the other day, and I wrote it on a list on my phone of movies to watch, and so I checked it out, and it was really good. I liked it. It has the most endearing racism in a film.
Yeah,
he's really racist,
but it's okay.
But you're not mad at him for it, I guess. You kind of just understand where he's coming from a little bit. He's just a grumpy old guy. Obviously, he's always been around.
It's relatable.
He was in the Korean War, so he spent years with Asian people trying to murder him, and then it kind of makes sense that. He was trying to murder them too. It's not like a one-sided. War is never a one-sided affair, I don't think.
Not when you're a soldier.
No. But no, it was really good. It was a kind of a heartwarming story. It ended really well too.
Yeah.
I don't want to say how it ends because if somebody's watching this or listening, this
is the first time we've ever cared about spoiler alerts. By the way,
know.
But it's only because I haven't seen Foxcatcher.
But the ending made sense. I was hoping that it wasn't going to be an over-the-top ending, when he's going to confront these folks at the end. I was like, man, if he unforgivens this bitch and just guns down all those guys, it's cool, but totally not realistic.
Yeah.
So it ends well, the only way it could have. It totally made sense. It wrapped the whole story up very well, I thought.
Yeah. I just thought it was really well done, really well acted. It's engaging for sure.
Well, Clint Eastwood's the penultimate badass of Hollywood.
He does a good job. He kind of can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
So I even watched one of his old movies a year ago when I was in a hotel, and I watched one of his original cowboy movies.
The spaghetti westerns are fucking classic.
It was super fun to watch.
Yeah.
It was silly, but it was really good. And he does a great job. He's a very serious fucking actor. Yeah. He takes it pretty seriously, but I'm sure he's probably a pretty fun guy in real life.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. He's
I would imagine.
well-known womanizer.
Well, wouldn't you be?
Yeah,
if you had billions of dollars and been in Hollywood for
Clint Eastwood was
50 years.
I might be. Oh, hi, hun. Sorry, this is getting. I forgot she was over.
No, I just mean if you were a totally different, if you were a totally different person who lived his life. You know, I mean, and then women. They throw them at you. They throw them at you in Hollywood.
Well, I was reading that he would have affairs with women, and then they would have a child, and then they would just let him have an affair. Like one lady had 2 of his kids illegitimately.
Well, he has the money that they don't care.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was strange because they're not really victims because they're willingly. I mean, I didn't see anything about
they're
him
not
raping
victims.
anyone. Yeah, and so I think when women read it, they're like, "Oh, he was a womanizer. He's a terrible guy." And it's like those women probably willingly had sex with him. So, and then some of them went back for more after they even had like 2 kids with him.
Yeah. Well, a womanizer isn't a rapist. A womanizer is just somebody who sleeps around, and people just don't want them to do that. But that's totally what a lot of people do, especially if they have a ton of money and they can afford to go from person to person and pay for kids that they don't want to take care of.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's, and back in the day, they probably didn't have.
I think some of them probably got pregnant on purpose. They're like, oh, if this guy knocks me up, he have the means to take care of me and my child.
I don't know. I don't know the intentions of these women I've never heard of, but it happens. I'm sure plenty of females enjoy getting pregnant. Getting a pregnant in them.
Okay.
Getting all prego. For ego.
Like the spaghetti sauce?
Yeah, that's...
I wonder if they thought about that at all before they slapped that on the jar.
I'm pretty sure we weren't calling pregnant. We didn't use the word prego when that fucking company came around.
Was it like a guy in the grocery store walking with his pregnant girlfriend and he's like, "Oh, look, you like prego sauce, you prego, you get it?" And then it caught on.
And then that retard made a company?
No, I just mean like...
Oh, you mean No, I
Prego existed first. And then he saw it and was like, oh, I don't want to spend the energy to say pregnant. You just prego.
You're prego.
As in like ready to have this child.
Okay, I don't know.
This is all going off the rails and it doesn't...
Yeah, let's get this back on track here.
What track?
Somehow.
Is track here?
Train track.
It's a technical foul.
Oh, God. Well, I know what you'll be saying for the next 5 years.
It's true.
It's all good. So what do we want to talk about first? Today is the episode where we are going to discuss virtual reality in the new technology department that we've created in our brains.
And 3D printing.
3D printing, which is also new technology. So we both kind of gave ourselves...
a homework assignment.
Yeah, we gave ourselves a homework assignment to discuss particular topic. So I did research on virtual reality, which was a lot of fun, really interesting stuff. Definitely a big topic right now in video gaming especially, but in technology in general. Yeah. And then I
went with 3D printing because the CES 2015 conference thing just ended, and that was 2 of the big things that people were showing off was 3D printing and virtual reality.
You can burp into the thing, it's fine.
I know.
It's fun that way.
It's like now that I'm being recorded.
I know. I'm much more self-conscious. Yeah. I'm like, don't pick my nose. Don't grab my balls. Don't, don't do any of that shit.
I know. I've been trying to scratch my butthole, just moving my cheeks.
Kegel style. Like just really with a lot of tension.
Yeah.
That's my couch, right? Which means that I'd like you to do that more often. Anyway. So what should we talk about first? I didn't really look at a lot of 3D printer stuff in my research. I
was going to take a bunch of notes, and then I was just reading through it, and there's not a ton of... there's a lot of material in like the very specific science and how it all works, but I was like, who's going to want to listen to that? Like, there's probably a YouTube video of somebody talking about it that would explain it better than I did. But I watched some videos and I did some reading, because in my mind I thought it was a lot more complicated than it really is, but it basically, with the 3D printers, they've been around for over 30 years. They just haven't been very prominent until recently because they are just now acquiring the technology to make them work well. They've always been around, but there's always been like little issues, and they didn't work perfectly like they wanted them to. So it's been around for a longer. I didn't realize it had been around for 30 years. That's crazy. But it's in my mind, I thought that it was like a lot because they do like 3D printed food now and shit. Like that's what they were doing at CES.
What is CES? Because I didn't even know what it was for a long time until Consumer Electronics Show, and then it was the 2015, which I never heard of.
They do it every year. It's just where they show off cool new gadgets and stuff that are either coming out shortly or about to hit the market. Some of them I think are probably far away, but with the 3D printer, they said that it should be probably in full swing within the next few years. In a capacity that when you're shopping in an online store, you will be able to really customize. Like in the example that I saw, they were talking about Nike shoes and how typically you just have a handful of designs to pick from, and then you have like 3 color options. But with the 3D printing, you're able to really customize like what colors you want to go where and like how you want the shoe to be designed. So it's gonna open up a lot of doors and opportunities for people to customize their shopping experience in some ways. But what they're mostly using it for right now, and what I thought was the coolest was I'll back up actually. So 3D printing, basically how it works is it's a big ass machine that looks like a crazy microwave or something. I mean, it looks like
the biggest
really
microwave
cool.
ever.
Yeah. But it takes 3D mappings and diagrams from a computer, and it uploads it digitally into the printer. And then the printer has whatever material components you want it to be made out of stored inside it. Like you kind of prep it, and then you upload the schematic, and then it prints it, essentially using that schematic. So it uses the exact depths and measurements and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And what the big thing that they were talking about is that it's going to help a lot with medical advancement as far as prosthetics and like spinal discs and things like that, because they'll be able to basically scan the person's body and get the exact measurements, put it into the machine, and create a very specific either prosthetic or part or bone structure, plate or whatever, like even skull plates and stuff that will fit perfectly because they have the exact measurements for whatever part of your body they're trying to match it up with. So I thought that was really cool because I feel like, I mean, they probably use them now. I think they said that it's already in use especially for making like limbs and things like that. But I mean, I imagine for a long time they probably just created a rough estimate of like what would fit with you, or had like a general prosthetic that they just used, and it would work probably well for some people and be uncomfortable for others. So with this machine, like the 3D printing technology now, they're able to really make it specifically for the person instead of just like a general creation. And it also helps them to create things that have very small, intricate parts. A lot of things they were showing off was like a lamp that I saw, but it was all interwoven. It almost looked like what like a basket weaved lamp would look like, but it's made out of like ceramic parts. And they were talking about how you can't really handcraft things like that, or if you can, it takes for a very long time, not forever. That's not an accurate measurement of time at all. But it would take a really long time to craft something like that. But with a 3D printer, you just put in the measurements, you create it, and then it'll just fucking prints it up in a few hours. It's really cool. And then as far as the food goes, you upload the schematics and you put in the ingredients, and then it just creates it. It's really interesting, and it's totally edible and stuff.
So I imagine, and I haven't looked into like any schematics or anything, but it's essentially it has a flat like base where everything gets printed onto, and then it has a kind of arm that comes out of the top, right? And that is what actually is going to place the material onto the mat, to the base in whatever configuration you want, and then it can layer things however you want, like a printer.
Yeah, how it does it is like it starts with a flat surface, and then as it prints, it lowers it down. So like let's say you're creating a vase. It will start like your bottom is here, and then it starts like kind of crafting it, like moving back and forth and printing it, and then the whole structure just slowly moves down, and then when it's over, it's going to be like inside the machine, and the top is here, and it's cool. I can do like hand signals, and people get what I'm talking about.
Well, except for the people listening only.
Yeah, well, get on YouTube. I don't know what to say.
I don't either.
So yeah, it just kind of like prints it down, and then I mean, depending on the item, you might have to let it sit in there for a while, especially if it's using metals and stuff. It's probably heating that up a lot to like melt it and form it the way they want, and then you just open it up and pull it out. It's like a it kind of reminded me of like a kiln where you cook fucking clay and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of space age technology that people are kind of equating to like Star Trek and shit.
Yeah, that's what they're talking. It's like the kind of stuff that you would see. I remember in like one episode of Star Trek, they would like how they got the food was they just had like a little menu on this like machine, and they would just punch in what they wanted, and then it would just make it.
Yeah,
and then they just pulled it out and ate it. So people, it's like kind of similar to that, where it can just make these things. Sure. Granted, you have to put the ingredients in and be a little bit more specific as far as schematic uploads and stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw on CES that they were making like cookies. It seems like things that are fairly small, flat, and bakeable you could do pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And definitely has tons of applications with plastics, because plastics are you know, tons of different like colors and molds, and you can just print off different things. I know I watched a YouTube video like maybe a year ago about a guy in California who was making AR-15 parts with a 3D printer, and he was getting around the laws because the laws didn't apply to what he was using the 3D printer for. So he was making all of these like parts that you could then just put together into an AR-15. He was making the magazines, he was making the lowers. I think he wasn't making the upper part, because that's the part that's controlled and stamped and serialized, but he was making the lowers. I could be mixing those up as either the lowers or the uppers that are regulated. So all you had to do is get the upper from somewhere else, get the lower from him, and you could essentially have an AR-15 wherever you were. And he was selling on the internet, and then he got sued, or he got like a lawsuit against him from the state or something, that he wasn't allowed to do it, and he was fighting it. I don't know what happened to that case, but it was an interesting case where just an individual was able to manufacture something that you could only buy from a large manufacturing company, and he was doing it in a way that allowed him to do something that people are very afraid of, which is make weaponry. But you could do the same thing with like shoes. You know, you're gonna pay a lot of money up front for the machine. You're gonna pay a lot of money to get the materials. But once you have that, you know, maybe you make a shoe every month for yourself, and you never have to buy shoes again, you know, or a shoe every 6 months, or whatever you want to do, or you want a boot or something, you just make it yourself. I could see that being very expensive for the individual for a while, because materials are not going to be cheap. You're going to have to buy them in bulk, I would assume. So I could see maybe there being shops where you could go to a mall and you could have a schematic ready to go, or you could look through a list, and then they would like do your order for you, and they could manufacture something for you on their machine. You know what I mean? Because I don't think it would be feasible for everyone to own their own thing and make their own stuff and say their, you know what I mean? Because you'd have to have all the, and then what are you going to have? One that makes food, and one that makes this, and one that makes that? Because you can't have the same apparatus that's putting, you know, sauce, also doing metals. You know, you don't want those mixing.
You want to mix those up? You want some nails in your pizza?
You know what I mean? So it's kind of it's a pretty niche specific manufacturing process that you're just kind of taking from a large scale to a small scale. You're just like, you know, they do it in factories all the time with you know, manufacturing anything. It's essentially doing that kind of process.
I'd like to think
in a different
way. Years down the road, they'll be sold like those McDonald's kits for kids with the little microwaves, where they give you the ingredients to like make your own McDonald's from home with like the little microwave. But instead, it's like a shoe kit. It's like I don't remember, Easy Bake Oven.
Easy Bake Oven. Yep.
It'll just be that, but for 3D printers, and then it'll be like you can sell your Easy Bake 3D printer to your kids, and then they get like the materials to make some shoes. And
I would totally see that happening if it gets smaller, or at least more affordable than people. I mean, if it became affordable, then we would do all that stuff that I just mentioned. You would just, you know, it would be part of your kitchen or part of your whatever. But I don't need to manufacture anything that much. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to make like, I don't know. Like, I mean, what do I've never really thought about it. I guess that's kind of the thing that it's allowing people to do, is be just that much more in control of their own purchasing and their own lifestyle in a way that I literally can't imagine what I would use it for. Like right now, I mean, I would, you know, if I needed something, I just go to the store, I buy it online. I can't imagine just like being like, oh, I just need this, and this, and a schematic, and I'll just make it at home. I don't know how that becomes more efficient or not. You know what I mean? I have a lot of shit to do in my life.
How expensive products become in the future versus creating them at home with your sweet 3D printer.
Yeah. I just think it's somewhat novel and somewhat inefficient for the indivical. It seems like it would make way more sense.
I think the medical
obviously
awesome,
for commercial and for medical or for like even if you just want to like make your own product from home, like Etsy, where you make your own necklaces or something. This is going to, make that a lot easier to have your own little business, but you make a certain amount of money, you're still going to have to fucking get a license. And, it takes out the middleman a little bit, but still, the government's still going to be involved if you're making money creating products. And that's going to piss off a lot of manufacturers who are going to try to make, patents and trademarks a lot more of an issue. They're going to patent pizza, you know what I mean? Because everyone's going to make their own, you could have an easy bake oven pizza maker and that's all it does. It just makes pizza or whatever bakeable, doughy kind of foods. And that's going to, kind of mess with the economics of normal life.
The Pizza Hut stock is going to go down.
You could. Unless Pizza Hut makes their own one where you get to pick your pizza, go there and watch it get made, and they have their little 3D printers, and it takes 8 hours. No, that would make sense.
That's like the Sunday entertainment after you get out of church. Oh, come on, kids, let's go to Pizza Hut.
No, they're
watch
3D
that shit
printing.
I can't say shit. I go to church.
Oh, this character is not very consistent with their beliefs.
I know. I was in character, and then I lost it. But hey, kids, let's go to Pizza Hut, buy Jolly G. Willikers.
by golly.
And watch this pizza get baked over an insurmountable amount of time.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And you're going to get super bored and fall asleep or whine at me.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's going to be so much fun.
Oh, yeah. I'm guessing the pizza didn't take too long. It seems just super novel and not necessarily very practical.
As far as with the food, I think it was more of a, it's so cool it can make food.
Yeah.
But that's not really what we wanted to do.
I want the thing in Back to the Future where you put a tiny little cube in the microwave and it becomes a full steak dinner that's perfect and beautiful. You know what I mean? Because that's so much more efficient.
Yeah.
Like, I could totally dig that. But if I have to put kill a cow and then cut it up. No, just take steak parts. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know where it necessarily is helping me out.
It to be like the Willy Wonka gum where you chew on it and it starts as like your steak dinner. And then, or
it's a whole
starts
meal.
as an appetizer, then goes to your steak dinner, and then becomes like a piece of apple pie. It's just like a full flavored, amazing piece of gum.
That would be great. That's a great invention.
If it somehow spewed out the nutrients as you chewed on it for eating those things, and then made you feel full, it'd be sweet.
Did you? Yes. Did you in your to point at you in your research? Did you see anything about 3D printed homes? Because I've seen that in the past, where it's a massive, like, crane-looking machine, and it they actually will have like pre-built parts, and they'll just essentially just manufacture it in. It's like a manufactured home,
but manufacture part by part, and then you just put it together.
Right, but it's like a 3D printed home where it actually kind of like layers things instead of just putting it together like as you would kind of mechanically one part by at a time. It kind of layers the parts and does it like that, and you can create like tons of structures in a small amount of time because it's just using this one machine that's all prepped.
Yeah. Well, they were saying that they use them for that, and then they were like using it to create like pieces of artwork where you could upload, and they showed like pictures of big statues that it had printed out based off like a schematic that like an art student would create inside the computer program, and then instead of hand sculpting something with materials, you would just create it and then upload the schematic, and it
instead of doing the thing that takes skill and kind of
they had
shows
some really like big like fountain style things built with it or printed off, I guess.
And like clothing, really interesting, like intricate. I saw this girl with it was like a skeletal structure dress, and it was all Jesus Christ. And it was all like, it had moving parts and stuff. It was at CES. I keep on wanting to say CVS, but it's not the prescription medication store.
No.
And it was really cool because it's very intricate, all made of like, hard plastics and stuff. So you can definitely do art projects with this kind of thing. Probably a lot I don't even know if you could do that with a mold. I think a mold is somewhat less flexible as far as what you can do with them, and you'd have to, piece pieces together as opposed to just using the 3D printer.
So they were saying that it's accurate enough to create pretty intricate setups, but there are things that you have to basically just print it off piece by piece and then like put it together with screws or whatever you're using to put it together.
And it's only so big
because it can't, like, if you were, let's say, trying to print a cupboard, it can't print the cupboard and the hinges and like all that stuff just together magically. You would print the structures separately and then just put them together, kind of like a kit that you'd get at a store. Like if you bought a new coffee table, it comes in parts and you just put it together real quick.
Yeah, I think the specificity is what people like. It's you could measure something yourself, create your own design, and then make it into a physical 3D object, and that's kind of where it has its best value.
Cool. 3D printing. What's up with the VR world, the world that's not virtual?
So virtual reality is always been a kind of a goal, I think, of gaming and entertainment, as far as in the last 20, 30 years with video gaming. I mean, there are other applications, obviously, but I think video games tend to... they change rapidly, and there's a lot of money in it, and so it tends to be the forefront of new visual technologies like VR. So I looked at a lot of different. There's a lot of different brands or a lot of different companies that are working on it for different reasons, with different. And the thing about virtual reality is, it's trying to take our real experiences that are so intense and stimulus dependent, and trying to create that artificially through computerized worlds, right? So you have something like what is that called? Not Half-Life, but Second Life, which is a virtual reality. That's it's just a type of reality that has interactions and social things and currencies, and so it's you can have something as simple as just like Grand Theft Auto, which is a virtual world, a virtual reality. And then you can have something that's immersive, three-dimensional, has multiple senses involved, like touch, as well as depth perception and smells. And you can mix all that together. And the more senses you use in that pursuit, the more real it feels, and the more you trick your brain into believing it, into really getting into it and immerse. It's about being immersed in the world and not just being kind of an observer with a little bit of control over a character. So I think that's kind of like kind of where you can go with it. So you can either go real two-dimensional on a TV screen, or you can go three-dimensional with stereoscopic headsets, like with the Virtual Boy and with the new Oculus Rift and the Morpheus and all these different things. And then you can go one step further and add running. You can add a full, you're standing, you're shooting, you're moving in 360 degrees, and then you have you're holding a gun or a bow, or the ones that I watch, they're using the Move controllers or the Wii controllers, and so these developers are using all sorts of different things to make the experience as close to 100% natural as it can be. So instead of using a joystick, you're actually running in place using these really interesting low friction round platforms that you wear these special. One of them you just wear. It looks like you just wear these low friction socks, and you just run on this flat plate. There's one called Cyberith is the name of the company, and they make these this harness that's circular. Did you ever watch the movie Hackers? Yeah, with Angelina Jolie. So in that, the guy's playing on a virtual reality system where he's in a harness, and it's a circular thing around him.
So holds him in place.
Yeah, holds you in place and doesn't let you run around, but you can move in circles, and you can you run your feet, run around, and then you wear the helmet. Well, that's actually what they can do now. Like I think back then that was like a prototype and didn't actually work, but now you can make it work with the Oculus Rift as the headset. And then you use a camera for the motion tracking, and then you use the platform for the running. So it's like this full immersive thing. So the company that makes the one that I was looking at that uses the socks is called Cyberith, and they this guy I think just kind of developed it on his own, or like MIT or something. I don't know much about the history of it, but he combines the Oculus Rift headset that he got a developer kit for, his computer to play like Skyrim or to play Battlefield 4. So they did Battlefield 4. Where the guy is running, jumping, throwing grenades, is using the move sharpshooter controller with the 2 move guns, which is I don't know how he programmed it to work correctly, and then he's using these like either the Kinect or other types of cameras.
To track
the body movements.
Well, the controller would probably be pretty easy because the Sony just uses Bluetooth to connect the controllers. So like the Move controller, he probably just rigged it together to sync up with the Blu-ray on like the headset or the
and the button mapping is probably pretty easy to control. But this guy just hacks everything. Obviously, he just knew what to do. But it was super awesome because he was doing essentially the same thing you would do with a controller while you're sitting on your living room, but he was doing it fully immersed in the game, and so it was very realistic looking, and I would imagine very entertaining to play. Super cool to watch him do this, and then playing Skyrim, he was just running around shooting people with arrows in the city, and it was like that would be a lot of fun. Whether or not you want to stand and run in place, for an hour while you play a video game, that's a lot of physical exertion, and I think that's one of the downsides with full immersion VR.
Yeah, it almost seems like they would have arcade set up for it or something where you would just go in and, you buy like an hour of time and then they have a selection of games and you just kind of mess around with it. I mean, I guess if they probably would have units that you could buy to put in your home if you really wanted. They'd, I imagine, it'd be pretty expensive. Well, but I feel like it'll start out as like an arcade type thing. You go to like a virtual reality arcade and then, you just hop on. And
I know they already have that kind of stuff in other countries and probably in bigger cities where they have like these big mech suits that move around and not like, around the room, but they feel like they're moving. And then you have like, arcades where you're in a car and the car is super realistic, or, there's ways of making it more immersive, but then you need the big apparatus. So these things will be quite expensive to have the full thing. Yeah. But just the Oculus Rift, I was looking into that. That's now owned by the Facebook Corporation, but it's its own company, and they do their own developing. At CES, they were talking about a new model that they're allowing developers to use called a Crescent Bay, and it has even better specifications, better resolution, better tracking, better or lower latency, so better persistence and response times, with higher hertz refresh rates as well. I mean, there's a lot of different companies working on it. There's Samsung has their it's called the VR Gear or Gear VR or something like that, and it's essentially you have to buy a Note 4 or a Note 5. It only works with that one phone, and but you can use this headset with a phone instead of using having to buy a specific apparatus. Yeah. You're buying a kind of shell that has programming in it, which is the Oculus Rift programming, but the phone actually becomes the processor and the user interface. But you have to it's like expensive, and you have to use that specific phone, which Samsung makes or whatever.
Yeah, the Note 4 probably, because that's the newest one that just came out.
It's whatever the newest one is. But when you actually use it, it works pretty well. It's 3D. It's it's.
So with that, does it just use like the Android games, like certain ones?
It has a demo. Okay. So you would download an app, and then you would use the app, and it has like a Cirque du Soleil. It has like a.
Do you participate? Are you like a dancer?
No, you're just you're just an audience member in that particular situation. It's not all about gaming. A lot of this stuff that I was looking at was cinema related or tours, like virtual tours is a huge thing that the Oculus
that'd be really cool and pretty easy to pull off too. It being able to just virtually walk around someplace and if it's covering your face and all your peripheral vision, and you probably really feel like you're there, and you get a sense of depth and everything with it.
Yeah, for sure. And it allows you, because it's first-person perspective, which is the best, kind of the only way it really works really well, is because you're immersing in it. You couldn't really play a third-person game like Assassin's Creed with it. You kind of have to be the character with the Oculus Rift because it takes up all your vision, and just kind of conceptually makes sense.
I feel like it would work if you were just sitting down with like a controller in your hand, because they would just work as your TV screen, just like
you could obviously do anything with it, but I think that as far as feeling real, like you're the one in it, you kind of have to get rid of that that kind of disconnect between the person and the character. But obviously, you could watch a movie using this kind of stuff, and it would look awesome. I think that's one of the things I'd like to try, is just to watch a 3D movie like Avatar again using the Oculus Rift. Now, the main benefit of the Oculus or these kind of VR systems is that you can move your head, and it tracks your head movements. So if you use like a movie as your template, you're just locked into that frame. You're it has to be somewhat 360 degree and fully immersive for the headset to really be utilized to its maximum. You have to. That's why the virtual tours makes the most sense, because you could use a controller to walk around, but you can use your head to just discover anything you want to look at and to get closer to things, or to do virtual tours of all sorts of different things, like underwater or whatever.
It'd probably enhance your movie going experience a lot, in that you wouldn't have any distractions, because if you have this on your face that literally all you see is the film, and then obviously you probably have like some kind of headset on for the sound.
Yeah, they always have this headset.
Then it's like there's not. If you're sitting at home watching a movie, it's like a screen.
Yeah,
and so there's all these things going on around you, and I feel like if you were watching movies like that, you'd probably get more out of the movie, because it's like you're so focused on it. There's nothing else around you distracting you.
Well, it creates the tunnel vision that you that can be utilized for focusing on whatever you're trying to learn or whatever. So I'm going to go through a couple of other companies that are making some cool stuff. One is so I mentioned the Cyberith. It's called the Cyberith Virtualizer, which is the apparatus that holds you down and use the platform. And then Omni, I just found a YouTube video on them. There's another company doing the exact same thing, but they use this kind of soft shoe that has the platform has grooves and a slight concaveness to it, and your foot when you're running just goes into these grooves, so you kind of stay in place if you want to, but whenever you pick up your foot, you can go to you can turn, you can move, but you stay in the same area, and then it holds you up with the harness, kind of a situation. But that was just essentially the competitor to the other guys. And then Razer is actually doing something really, really cool, which is the OSVR, which is open source virtual reality, where they're giving developers a kit, which is essentially the Oculus Rift, a version of the Oculus Rift that they've kind of I don't know, developed or parted out or in conjunction with Oculus, to use kind of that allows end users to do whatever they want with both the software and the hardware. So you can take the whole thing apart, you can change out lenses, you can adjust where the lenses are, you can adjust how the faceplate is, where you're, if you want to wear glasses, if it accommodates that, and you can alter the software in it so you can make it better, you can change the latency, you can make it do whatever you want, and you can make your own games for it. You could make your own programs for it. So it's like the Android-based software system for virtual reality world, so that you're not stuck with whatever Oculus Rift gives you, their particular suite of programs and items. Kind of like iTunes is all proprietary. This is completely open source. So Razer is kind of spearheading that, which people obviously are going to be into, because it's open and they can do a lot more with it. Although developers can use the Oculus in and of itself, but they're still a little bit limited on what they can do. So that's a really cool thing that's happening. I looked into Project Morpheus. I couldn't find anything new, anything interesting. I don't know what's going on with that. I saw some people, there were some kind of videos about people talking about it from like last year, but I don't know what's going on with that.
I
it doesn't
feel like
seem
with
like they're putting a
Morpheus,
lot
it's
into
not going to be as extreme as a lot of them. I think it's going to be more of a consumer-friendly, as far as pricing goes. I think it's just going to be like a cool add-on to go with your PS4 that you can use to play your games, and they'll probably have like specific games that really utilize it in like an immersive way. But it seems like it'll probably, from what I've gathered, is it's almost just like throwing a headset on and being able to play just about any game you want with it, whether it's meant for it or not. And then they'll have specific games that are gonna
kind of like the Move,
virtual reality tech, and
it's like an addition to that.
They might bring the Move controllers back for it, because that's why the top of the DualShock 4 has that LED light. It's tied to working with the Morpheus,
right?
And that's why they implemented it. So I could see them either doing a new type of Move controller that's maybe enhanced in some way, or just bringing them back again to be utilized with it. Because I could see that being used with like a new camera for motion tracking while you're wearing your headset to play, like first-person VR games or whatever. But I think that it's not going to be as like intense, obviously, as like an apparatus that you're strapped into and you're like doing all. You'll probably still use like an analog stick to like move your character, but you'll be able to like sword fight with a controller of some kind and actually do the motions.
Yeah, I
could be wrong. That's just the idea I'm getting, and I think that's why it's not as exciting as some of the other ones, because I think that they're trying to make something that your average person could actually invest in and enjoy. It's not going to, like these apparatus things that people are building are going to be
those are separate than the Oculus Rift. So the Oculus Rift, those full body ones are kind of the higher end. That's not going to be particularly practical at first. But if you really want that immersion, you're going to want to do that, at least to try out. But yeah, having an arcade obviously makes more sense with that. What else? So the Samsung Gear thing is the thing that uses the phone. So what I thought was funny is that's around $200 if you want to buy one right now, which is still early on. But Google did exactly the same type of thing where you can use a specific a group of specific phones, like new gen smartphones, and it's called the Google Cardboard, and you can buy it for around $25. And it's one that you literally just put together yourself. It's like an origami kind of thing. You put it together. It holds in your phone. And then it uses a really low tech magnet to as you're button pressing. And it's got the stereoscopic lenses right in front of the phone. And that way, and then it uses an app, their own. It's called on the Google store. It's called Google Cardboard, or it's just called Cardboard or something. And it gives you a suite of cool demos to try. So it's just kind of like this cheap way to do exactly what Samsung's doing for very expensive, where you have to buy a phone, you have to buy the thing. It only works with specific types of things. Google decided they'd do something a lot cheaper, which I thought was interesting. And then there was a couple other things that I saw, which was one was a flight simulator called Birdly, which these guys have been working on for like half a year. So you literally lay down on this platform kind of thing, and you have your hands strapped into these kind of faux wings, and then you put on the Oculus Rift, and they have a program, a game where you fly around New York like a bird, and you actually have to flap your wings, and you can move your arms right and left, so you can, and then up and down, so you can go left and right, and you can go up and down as far as like gliding, and then if you're flapping, you're flying up higher or whatever, or going faster. And they also integrated wind, so when you're in it, there's a fan right in front of your head, so you can feel like you're, it probably turns, accelerates when you accelerate to make it cool. And then it also they integrated smells, so they actually went around and they got smells for like what the street smells like not like gross, like trash, but like what a street smells like after it rains, or just what it smells like in San Francisco. I don't know exactly what they used, but they will when you're going through certain areas or whatever of the city, this virtual city, they'll shoot these little sprays of fragrances at your nose. So you have this kind of full, flight simulator game that you can play. That was one of the coolest ones I saw, as far as like things that they're actually doing right now. What else did I check out? That was kind of the most interesting VR stuff. Lots of different companies doing lots of different things. It's very early in development, but it seems to be gaining speed. It seems to be getting to the point where we're going to have these things available commercially soon, and I'm curious how expensive they'll be, what kind of, it's kind of peripheral intensive, especially if you want to do the...
it's not just buying a headset, it's buying a headset and then...
Well, you also have to have a camera, because the cameras are going to help with the motion tracking, even if you're just using a controller. And then I think the foot tracking stand-up ones are probably going to be the least attractive at first, because they're so... they're going to be expensive. They're going to take up more room in your house. They're going to be more difficult to play for long durations. But I think that ultimately that could help in the way that video games are known for kind of stunting fitness.
Yeah.
And these are a good way to get fitness in, because you can do virtual tours where you're running around an area, and that's going to be a physical exertion, which would be beneficial for gamers.
Battlefield Online a lot. Running around battlefields and shit. So.
I just think that would be somewhat beneficial to people who play video games and aren't, it would give people less reason to fucking leave the house, which we're getting more of all the time. But if you're going to be in your house, you might as well do something physical. Yeah. So I think it'd be really cool. I think one of the other things that would be awesome is because it's 3D, because it sort of blocks out all the other visual stimulus, and you can put a headset on that's like 3D, virtual sound, is to do like concerts where it would kind of feel like you're in a concert. You would be able to, or a comedy show. You could do a comedy special, listen to a comedy special, and it would feel like you're in the audience, which is a very different experience than listening to it kind of coming out of your TV, and it's just more flat and less vibrant than if you're kind of in the audience. So it'll give you much more immersion into all sorts of different entertainment, like movies and things like that, and concerts, and
then you have to travel
stuff
around the country and collect smells from various theaters so that you can pick your venue. And
it would just be like almost every concert would just be like the smell of weed would just somehow come out of your Oculus Rift and come into your nose. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, are you gonna buy one if it becomes available for the Morpheus or something?
I probably will, actually. I mean, it depends, I guess, on like what the final product really can do, and how much crap I need to buy to go with it, and how expensive it is. Like, if it's crazy expensive and I have to buy all the, like, if I'm gonna have to dump like $1,000 into it, then I probably won't hop on the bandwagon quite right away. But I mean, if they're able to come out with something that's pretty immersive and cool, and I can use it in a lot of different ways, I mean, I would be down just to use it to like watch movies and shit.
Yeah,
not even necessarily gaming. Like, gaming obviously would be a lot of fun, but if they are able to come out, I think that's why I have my idea on my eyes set on the Morpheus so much, is it seems like Sony's really trying to balance use with cost. Like, I think that they're trying to find a way to make it as cheap as possible but function like they want it to, which is going to be the big hurdle, because if all these virtual reality headsets and peripherals are coming out, and you have to spend $400 or $500, it's going to cut out a lot of people who probably would be interested in it just from price point alone.
At this point, the Oculus Rift development kit 2 is around $350.
Yeah,
it's not that bad.
No,
and that's just for developers. If it comes with
everything that you need to just use it, that's not that bad. Like,
no,
for like $300 to $350, I would do that myself.
Yeah, well, and that's not including a lot of the software because this is pretty bare bones technology that they're giving people to create the games and the experiences for. So these are dev kits where you would want something that's fully integrated into your system, your computer, your console, or whatever. And Oculus is owned by Facebook, so this is going to be a PC item, I think. I don't think it's going to be available unless Xbox comes up with their own, or they're already working on something interesting, because they already have the Kinect, which is really good, but needs more to make it useful.
Yeah.
I think that Facebook is going to do this. It's going to utilize it in a PC fashion, in a social network fashion, but also entertainment is going to be a big part of it. So that's why like the Razer's open source virtual reality will be beneficial in that it won't keep this really interesting technology, really interesting stuff in a box. Hopefully it'll be open to lots of different opportunities and interesting stuff. But ultimately, I mean, you know, I don't think I'm getting a bad experience with my video game and my going to movies and stuff that, you know, I don't need something particularly extra.
It would just be cool.
It would be super cool. It would
just be a cool thing to have
for sure
to enhance your little multimedia endeavors.
Yeah. And we might find that it's, you know, lacking in certain areas.
It could. I feel like they've really tried to push 3D a lot. And I even was reading that it hasn't really taken off like the industry has wanted. Like people aren't really that interested in buying 3D TVs and using it. I mean, they're expensive, and I think that people just don't care that much about it.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you go to the theater, like 3D showings usually don't sell out or anything. People would rather save their money and just watch a 2D straight movie. They're not that worried about it. So, I mean, it could be something like that where there is a small audience that really gets into it, but a lot, like a general public just doesn't really care that much about the virtual reality, which I could see that happening. Which would I think it will happen, to be honest, if it's really expensive. Like money is a big deal for a lot of people. Not a lot of people have a lot of it. So if things are expensive, then they just opt out entirely.
Yeah, if it doesn't become available to the masses, then it'll probably fizzle out eventually. But I don't know. I think it's a little different than 3D movies. Only because of its variety of applications.
Yeah,
you know,
it can be used for a lot more.
Yeah, and it allows you to do the head tracking and more interaction with the entertainment medium. But at the same time, whether or not people find that valuable after it becomes available is different. You know, you never know. It could fizzle out like the 3D. Like you said, it started off as this like it's going to change everything, and it's like no, it's just a little bit of depth perception.
Yeah, it's
going on here.
Kind of cool, but not.
Yeah, and it is cool in some aspects, like Avatar.
Avatar did a great
or
job.
I think even the Lord of the Rings movie did a really good job with the 3D.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I don't care that much about that, but it definitely as long as it's not too much more expensive, it's not that big of a deal.
Well, one day we'll just be able to watch movies in virtual reality while our 3D printer makes our dinner, and
then we don't have to leave the couch or
you just have
do
it
anything.
set up.
You don't have to leave the house.
Put it on a timer like a coffee pot and just.
Have you ever seen the movie? What is it called? It's the one with Bruce Willis where they live in a future where you...
Surrogates.
It's pronounced surrogates.
Surrogates?
Surrogate.
You rock the discipline.
I think that's the ultimate in virtual reality where you have a robot that does things for you, and you can just live inside of that, like inside of the vision of that robot, how they did in that movie.
That movie bums me out because it has such a cool idea, but the plot sucked. It just
it had a really cool idea.
Yeah,
it was fun to watch, but it wasn't that great.
Like just redo this movie with a more interesting plot.
Yeah,
it was such a great.
It's kind of like Inception, where you can die in your dreams in Inception, and you're like, meh. I don't know how you're making that work because that doesn't make any sense, especially if you go real deep into the dreams. How am I?
I loved Inception the first time I watched it, but the more that time has gone on, the more times that I've seen it, I'm just like, what?
Yeah, it's pretty silly.
Yeah.
But I loved. I thought Surrogates was pretty fun.
Surrogate.
I said that like a million times, and nobody thought it was funny.
Tomo Surrogate.
Yeah. Mr. Bruce Willis.
Are you a Mexican now? Did you
Mr. Bruce Willis.
Just change ethnicity.
I couldn't keep the. You can't say Bruce Willis with a Japanese accent or a Chinese accent.
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis.
The discipline, Bruce Willis.
I think Bruce Willis.
You let your Surrogate get away from you.
Yeah. He had to get out of that thing.
I know.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think that they just should have had a different story for that movie. Because they tried to turn it into just like a generic action movie with like a really cool sci-fi element to it. And I'm just like, no, just have like a story about how that affects society and you as a person and how it's destroyed your personal relationships with people because you can't.
Well, it had a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, it had a little bit, and those were the best parts of the movie.
It really, those were the best parts, for sure.
But most of the movie, it was like these like funky action sequences that just didn't flow with the rest of it.
Yeah.
It was just a great idea with a poor execution.
Yeah. I think AI, virtual reality, and augmented reality will just grow because, there's a lot of excess money out there for people to, to put into these kind of areas and see if they become...
you could donate to charities and help starving children, or you can build apparatuses that let you exist in a world that's not real.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't mention was the massive market for sexual uses. They already have one in Japan or something.
Japan, of course.
Where it involves a mechanical robot, a fake vagina. It's a fake vagina, and then a virtual reality Oculus Rift that you sit in a chair, and then it goes through this sequence of virtual interactions with strippers or females or whatever, and then at the end of it you get this machine that just jacks you off with a fake vagina. So I think that's probably where the money is.
That's totally where the money is.
The only problem is like after you take your helmet off and you've just got this like robot sitting next to you and it's all you gotta clean it and you gotta like they should make it with like a they gotta make it look real or whatever, make a sex robot out of it, or
they have like DLC packs that add STDs onto the vagina. You gotta practice safe sex.
Man, you gotta wear a condom with your fake ass doll. That would ruin it. That'd be the worst invention ever. But I guess if you get bored, man, eventually it'll choke you, it'll smack you in the face, and it'll call you names, and then you'll be happy.
If they haven't thought of that, we need to market that right now because that's like a gold mine that we're sitting on right now.
The dominatrix, virtual dominatrix market,
add-on packs that people can buy, expansions for their virtual reality sex robot.
We should just patent the term DLC add-ons.
I don't think we can do that. I don't know.
Is that
too late?
Not going to happen. Okay.
We're gonna need a time machine to go back like 7 years.
Yeah, probably about that much. Interesting. Word.
We're going to make women obsolete at the rate we're going because then men will just be like, I don't need you. I don't need your lip, woman. I got my virtual reality sex robot upstairs. I don't need you.
Well, yeah, it would definitely change the sexual dynamics a lot. But they would still need them for other things
and stuff. And then the machines develop personalities, and then it just creates like a whole alternate species.
I don't think so this time.
Where is my massage, Joe?
Yes, yeah, you promised me a Rolls Royce. That'd be great.
I think that would defeat the purpose of it.
I don't know. I don't think that would work very well.
That's like the plot of a movie where men stop being with women and then robots, but then the robots develop like a consciousness.
And then you find out that it was all a woman who created the AI, and she was like trying to teach somebody a lesson, or
trying to teach men to appreciate women again.
Yeah.
Then the robots start demanding more than the real women did, and then the men go back to the women because they were easier to deal with. Yeah.
Man, you'd have to make a robot pretty hard to deal with.
Hollywood. I don't know what we're doing sitting here.
You got to make a robot that's like really difficult for me to go running back to. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think once, if that happens, our population will go down pretty drastically, and then we won't have anybody to make our cool VR shit. Because we still need little kids in other countries mining for precious metals so we can make these fucking batteries.
So every great thing in history was just throwing
children at it.
Children and misery and suffering at it until it was done. It's like a Louis C.K. joke.
Oh, really?
With that.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for giving him credit.
I just, in case he's watching.
He's probably, if Louis C.K. ever knows about this podcast, I will continue doing this podcast. I'll invite him on. I would invite him on. Sweet. Well, I think we've covered some information about that stuff we talked about.
Just a little bit.
Just a little
bit of this technology.
Yeah.
And we get to talk about surrogates, which is always good.
Anytime I can bring up surrogates.
Have you really brought that up and just nobody was like, Mwah?
I kept on. It was one of those things where I'd be like, hey, surrogates. And they'd be like, that's not funny at all. And I'd be like, no, it's the movie Surrogates.
I'm pronouncing it differently. It was hilarious. So
yeah, I don't know. I thought I was
hanging out with the wrong people. That's all.
I'm definitely was hanging out with the wrong people back then. Now I just hang out with you. So it's the right person.
I'm gonna be saying that all. I'm gonna drive Vanessa crazy later.
Surrogates was a Bruce Willis film in the 90s.
It was not the 90s. It was like
that's the only one that rhymes.
2000.
In the 2000s, early 2000s, times and good times for you.
I think it's about time to wrap it up because now you're making nonsensical robot
wrap
Asian
it up, B.
sounds. I don't know what's going on.
Jace.
Jace. That's not Asian.
So, how do you feel about this whole filming and getting pictures taken? Do you feel like a celebrity yet?
Not really.
I feel like I'm holding this mic like a porn star. I think we are done. I think I'm spent.
You should feel like a celebrity.
Yeah, it was cool. It was kind of fun to have all this different stuff going on in the background.
I'm going to get to sift through like 75 pictures of us sitting.
Yeah, you might get some good ones. Yeah, for sure. Well, right on, and thanks everybody for listening again. You can get us on Facebook and Twitter, and if you have any suggestions, comments, we're on iTunes.
On YouTube now.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You can make nasty comments on the videos.
Oh, please
it's a popular thing to do.
Please troll that shit.
Troll it to hell.
Troll it until it's under a bridge. Paying you money.
Oh, I got you. Nice troll joke. Anyway.
Schmish Marshman.
And then we have a new episode of Cornwall Literature coming up in a few minutes, actually. That's what we'll be doing next. So that'll be live probably before this is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
General Cornwallis will read you a tale of...
Another tale of woe.
Yeah. They're all tales of woe. There's other tales. There's tall tales, there's tales of woe, and then there are white lies.
And then the erotic stories are always fun.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to watch 50 Shades of My Last Name?
Nope.
Good.
Good.
I was totally... Me neither. I'm not going to watch that shit. What are you talking about?
I feel like had I said yes, you'd be like, oh, thank God. I was hoping that I had somebody to go with.
Yeah, I totally want to watch that with you and wear hoodies. And like chains. Just anything dominatrix style.
Yeah. Good.
Fucking
it sounds like a date. It comes out like on Valentine's Day or shortly before, so.
Yeah.
If you're not doing anything and I'm not doing anything, we'll 50 Shades that shit.
50 Shades the shit out of that shit. Just so we can have something to talk about.
Yeah. We can talk about...
You know, if we puke in our mouths, it's just all part of the fun.
I feel bad because it's just going to be a bunch of little tween girls watching it, because they're probably gonna,
they're going to
finagle it so it's PG-13 so that everybody can watch it. But it's just all about sex, which is I don't even know. I don't know what the rating is. I don't know how they would not have an R rating unless it's just
the MSRB. What is it?
MS. I don't know.
I don't know who they are.
I was going to say ESRB, but that's...
ESRB's games. But the ones who rate those, they're fucking idiots because you have a movie like the new Mockingjay movie, which has mass extinction of a ton of people. People like, you know, like who were bombed and who are now corpses in the street. And you have people being executed on a stage, and that's rated PG-13. I don't... That's the most disturbing thing in the world.
Yeah.
Violence,
but there's no blood, Joe, so it's okay.
Yeah, I don't get that. Kids don't care about blood. They get what just happened. They get that these guys got murdered.
Yeah.
They're not like, oh, well, it doesn't...
We're just like,
Well, I don't think anyone's desensitized. I think we have a certain lack of empathy going on in general culture. But I think that it's just, there's definitely, I mean, there's probably some desensitization going on, or there's just a deliberate... you know, kind of like people just don't. They like violence. They're into it.
Yeah.
It's not that they're like necessarily It's like they're sensitive to it, but they enjoy it, or something. You know what I mean? There's something about it. And then you put sex in there, and then you put a boob in there, and it's even if it's just somebody like a baby sucking on a boob. That's like, oh my God, you can't show boobs. That's
which are just sacks of fat with nipples on them.
They're not just sacks of fat. They're like wondrous, like parts of biology that allow babies to like survive and live, and you know what I mean? Like they really like breastfeeding and childbirth, and these things are like awesome and important, and yet we're all just like, ooh, it's gross because we're fucking 12. Like what? Isn't it the military stuff that's ew and gross?
No. Unless a dude's getting shot, that's cool.
That's fun. That's what I like.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a
topic for another time.
Story for another tale of woe.
A story for another tale of woe.
Anyway. All right. Well, this was fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
It always is.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And as always...
or watching.
You say a thing at the end of all these.
Oh, yeah. Well, Joe and everybody else. Good night. And good luck.
Peace.